All right, welcome back to the channel. So, rumor has it that Bob Arum may be losing his ESPN contract, and after that, there's a chance they may have to shut down Top Rank. Lawsuits, FBI raids, and lack of big money are the issues, according to my source. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, good people, welcome back to the channel. All right, man, this is something I could see coming for a long time, but got a word from some friends of mine that old Bob Arum and Top Rank may be having a very, very hard 2022. According to my sources, Bob Arum is in financial hardship and that he is at risk of losing his ESPN contract over poor ratings. Also, not happy about the shenanigans going on with the Tyson Fury arbitration, all of the conversations going on about there being an Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fight, only to have Deontay Wilder win an arbitration clause and make ESPN look like idiots. And lastly, obviously, and the things that we're going to discuss, he's just, and this is something we can all see, that Bob Arum is no longer the king of boxing. He's no longer the king of the boxing politics. He is being outmaneuvered at every corner, and the only way that you can really outmaneuver somebody like Bob Arum is if it's somebody that just has a lot more resources and somebody that is dead set on beating the guy. And that seems like that is what is happening. You have him being, an onslaught from Eddie Hearn in the Matchroom. What Matchroom's trying to do. You now have Triller. You have the PBC. It was only so long before Bob Arum would go the way of the dodo bird like every other, major promoter. But, Bob Arum is still, like you say, he's a dinosaur, and, he's a dinosaur in the space age. But it is taken because of how big he got and how much money he earned during the height of his career, which was the 1970s and the 1980s and the early 1990s. He's been able to coast through as Bob Arum, as Don King and other promoters have fell by the wayside, and really kind of be, in my opinion, the magnet of the anti-black boxing fan for several years now. So, and as a result, his contract is at risk. Now, the guys that are telling me that his contract are at risk, hey, I absolutely believe them. They've told me a whole bunch of stuff lately about billion-dollar offers being made to people, was very, very consistent about the arbitration clause and what was happening in that, the mediation and arbitration clause. They've just really given very, very solid information to me over the last year or so. So I'm going to ride with them. And some of the things that they point to that ESPN was not happy with is that they had to fire or had to not renew journalists. This is my source, right? You can go check this, verify this with your own. That there were several journalists that were fired from ESPN or their contracts were not renewed for ethical violations. And those two people that my understanding were let go were Steve Kim and Dan Rayfield. Steve Kim, I can't say that I know for certain why his contract was not renewed, but I can tell you for certain that he was very, very closely connected with Bob Arum, and he also had a reputation for saying things that many black people considered to be insulting, and an insult that he would use based solely on the fact that he was black, right? Dan Rayfield, though he did not have some issue like that, Dan Rayfield had another issue where he flew to a DAZN fight and Eddie Hearn paid for his hotel. I can suppose whatever he paid for things for Dan Rayfield, while Dan Rayfield was an employee of ESPN, which is completely unethical. If you are going to cover somebody in sports and you are working for ESPN, ESPN does not need for Eddie Hearn to front you the money for their for your hotel room. Doesn't need you to do that. ESPN has way more money than Matchroom. So why would you ever need a special room and a special block with Eddie Hearn? You absolutely do not need that. If you need to pick up the phone and call Eddie Hearn and tell him you need to come up there to see him, you got his phone number. Why in the world would you need a room for them to pay for and then them to reimburse you and then for you then to come and ask me to reimburse you again? right? Please, man, we have been in business for a very long time. We know how expenses work when you hit the road and you're flying around. People are tempted to double dip on their expenses, right? So easier, no better way to take a bribe and get a little extra money than to have somebody pay for your hotel room and then they reimburse you, and then you turn around and get a double reimbursement from your company. That is an age-old thing for people to slip money, and ESPN, my understanding is, didn't miss that when Eddie Hearn let everybody in the world know that he paid for Dan Rayfield's tickets. Also, there were some reports that were put out by a former, I think Cameron Duncan was the one that said it, and was like, look, when I worked for Top Rank used to have, and he's talking about with matchmakers that are still there, that they would have something on there written on their walls that said NBF, no black fighters. No black fighters. So it was a policy at Top Rank by Bob Arum for years to avoid black fighters, to have his best fighters avoid black fighters, not fight them, and then go to his media boys, the same media guys like Steve Kim and Dan Rayfield, the ones that ESPN told to go goodbye. Those are the type of guys that Bob Arum will reach out to sell to the media any old type of nonsense, right? And it's just, obviously this is something that boxing fans on YouTube have been seeing and been talking about and been very vocal about for several years now. And it is absolutely ridiculous to assume that the higher ups in ESPN do not see videos that are made with their names in the title, right? Max Kellerman is going to see and know what is going on with Bob Arum, and he is going to be reporting and talking to people at ESPN. Same thing goes on with, it's just a very big world. And with Bob Arum, the situation that Bob Arum is in my opinion, is that Bob Arum is an egomaniac. He's an egomaniac and a control freak that absolutely positively needs to retire because he is well past his due date. The man is almost 90 years old. He is still acting with the same mindset that he had when he was 40. The only problem is that when he was 40 50 years ago. That was in 1968. So if he was 40 in 1968, when was he 20? Right? 20 years before that, in 1948, right? Which was during the height of racism, overt racism throughout the United States. And you can still see in his actions, in my opinion, that he is a child of that era, and it is time, absolutely positively time for Bob Arum to go. Now, there's something else when I'm saying that he's no longer the king of the politics, because his office is getting raided. My understanding is that there's something actually that may be following up from the raids that the FBI made on his office. And he may actually have a situation where Bob Arum could wind up in jail. Something that Bob Arum himself, I assume, thought was absolutely positively impossible years ago. And that is why, in my estimation, is the only logic that I can see why he runs around with absolute disregard for the law, or absolutely disregard for the fact that anybody may be willing to sue him. Why? Think about it. I'll tell you this. One of the biggest hits to Bob Arum's career is this loss that he had to Deontay Wilder. To lose to Deontay Wilder in a New York court with an arbitrator that you selected, right? Because Bob Arum is going to carry this thing all the way out. He is going to think about what's going to happen when you get an arbitrator. Where should this go? Winds up in his hometown with an arbitrator that he knows of, right? And he still loses. That is like bribing everybody in the jury and still coming up convicted. So I have to assume that this guy just doesn't have the clout anymore. Then you also have guys like Triller moving in who are just doubling, tripling his bids for Teofimo Lopez. So, and then that's another thing ESPN can't be happy about. ESPN now has lost the Tyson Fury Anthony Joshua fight that he was promising them. And they may lose the Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua fight, because who knows what this negotiation is going to be like now that Tyson Fury has to fight. And who knows, I would be very interested to know if there's any damages associated with that would come if Tyson Fury acts like he ain't agreeing to something. He's just not in a good position at all. But anyway, that's my take on the matter, and I'm going to tell you flat out the truth. I hope that this is true. I absolutely positively hope the Top Rank goes out of business. It would be a great example for boxing, and we could get ourselves back on a good track where all his in-house fighting nonsense can go back to the 1920s where it came from. But that is my opinion. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.